It begins in the dead of night where silence is not empty, but filled with whispers. The kind you can't quite hear, but you feel. Have you ever walked past a cemetery and sensed unseen eyes watching from beyond the graves? If you think cemeteries are just resting places for the dead, these 5 stories will make you question what truly lies beneath the soil and what refuses to stay buried. Story 1. The Grave. That wept a young man named Daniel had a peculiar habit. He loved wandering through old cemeteries, fascinated by history and the stories etched in stone. One evening he stumbled upon an unfamiliar grave, one he had never noticed before despite visiting the cemetery countless times. The headstone was ancient, the name faded. But what truly unsettled him was the fresh, wet dirt covering the grave, as if someone had been digging. Curious and unnerved, Daniel reached out to touch the tombstone. As soon as his fingers brushed the cold stone, he heard it, a low, sorrowful weeping. The sound came from beneath him. The earth trembled slightly, and before he could react, a skeletal hand burst through the soil, grasping his ankle with inhuman strength. Daniel screamed, kicking desperately, breaking free from the grip of the grave. He ran, never looking back. But every night after, the weeping followed him, soft at first, then louder, closer. The sound of something clawing at his floor, until one night he awoke to find muddy footprints leading from his bedroom door to the side of his bed. Story 2. The Unmarked Tomb. In a small town, an urban legend whispered about an unmarked tomb hidden deep within the cemetery. The legend claimed that anyone who placed a flower upon it would hear a voice whisper their name, and within 3 days, they would vanish. Skeptical but intrigued, a group of teenagers set out to find the infamous tomb. After an hour of searching, they found it, a large, cracked stone slab unmarked surrounded by dead grass. One of them, Jake, laughed and placed a red rose on top. The moment the petals touched the stone, the wind howled through the trees, and a voice, a raspy, inhuman voice, whispered his name. That night, Jake heard tapping at his window. 3 slow, deliberate taps. When he looked outside, there was no one there, only shadows shifting between the gravestones. On the 3rd night, his friends came to check on him. His room was empty. The only sign of him left was a single red rose, resting on his pillow. Story 3. The Lantern Keeper. Not all ghosts haunt with malice. Some linger with purpose. In a secluded cemetery, legend spoke of an old caretaker who continued his duties long after death. On foggy nights, a flickering lantern could be seen floating between the tombstones. Those who followed it were said to never return. A woman named Evelyn, a paranormal investigator, decided to test the legend. Armed with a camera, she entered the cemetery just as the mist rolled in. Minutes later, a dim, golden light appeared in the distance. Heart pounding, she followed it, weaving between graves, deeper into the fog. The light stopped in front of a crumbling mausoleum. The air turned ice cold. Her camera malfunctioned, static filling the screen. Then she saw him, a tall figure in tattered clothes, holding a rusted lantern, his hollow eyes locked onto hers. Evelyn ran. When she reached the entrance, she turned back, but the lantern was right behind her. The last thing her camera recorded was her own scream before the footage cut to black. She was never seen again, but her camera was found near the cemetery, gates covered in frost. The final image? A shadowy figure holding a lantern, watching. Story 4. The Whispering Cryptin. An old churchyard, there was a crypt that had been sealed shut for centuries. No one knew who was buried inside, but the locals feared it. They claimed that if you pressed your ear against the stone door, you would hear whispers, pleading, begging, threatening. One night, a man named Carter, daring and foolish, decided to test the legend. With a smirk, he pressed his ear against the cold stone. At first, silence. Then, a breath. "Let me out." The voice was inside the crypt. The stone door shook violently, as if something was clawing at it from within. Carter stumbled back, heart hammering as the whispers turned into agonized screams. He ran, but he could still hear them, ringing in his ears. The next morning, the townspeople found him in front of the crypt, curled in a fetal position. His hair turned completely white. His lips trembled as he repeated the same phrase over and over. "I let it out." Story 5. The morgue's final guest, a cemetery worker named Tom, had seen many strange things during his years at the morgue, but nothing compared to the night shift when a body arrived. That wouldn't stay still. The man had died under mysterious circumstances. No wounds, no cause of death. His body was stored in the cold chamber, but every few hours the security cameras would catch movement. A twitch of a finger, a slight tilt of the head. At 3 a.m., Tom heard something shift. He turned, and the body bag was unzipped, empty. Heavy footsteps echoed through the morgue. The power flickered. A guttural breathing came from the hallway. With shaking hands, Tom locked the doors and hid. The next morning, the body was back on the slab, perfectly still. But Tom was never the same again. He quit his job, moved away, and never spoke of that night. Yet, every so often, in the dead of night, he would wake to the sound of slow, shuffling footsteps outside his door, waiting. Cemeteries hold more than just the dead. They keep secrets, stories, and restless souls. Some graves should never be disturbed. Some legends are not just myths. And some visitors never leave. Are you brave enough to visit a cemetery at night? If you do, listen closely. You may not be alone.